Hello Internet, it's Rose. Look, I know that I dropped the sketchbook Saturday and I'm not sure if I'll pick a schedule back up because, there's obviously an audience who cares. Anyways, if I find a day that does better than others, then maybe I'll start a more consistent schedule. But right now this is the Bunsen burner phase, and to the few viewers out there, you're my experiment. So anyways, on to the meat of the video. Last time I covered the first 3 Enneagram types. So this time we're going to focus on 4, 5, and 6. If you want a definition of the Enneagram, you can look up my previous video or, look it up yourself, which is probably the better solution. I'm not a professional Enneagrammistologist. Look it up yourself. The only thing that I will reiterate is that the Enneagram has no scientific backing, so don't put too much stock into this. Anyways, onto the character designs. First, we're going to start off with this special little snowflake, the Type 4. Type 4 is called the Individualist. And the Individualist is kind of the edgelord of the Enneagram. Granted, I'm not saying these people will always be dark and edgy and broody, but they will go into bouts of melancholy. A good spectrum of 4 is Anne of Green Gables from, Anne of Green Gables, to Kylo Ren from Star Wars. Just to give everyone context, I am getting these results from Yield Google, so if you find any inconsistencies, don't burn me at the stakes. I'm trying my best. So as you can see with this character, I kind of gave her this 2000s hippie look. Not the peace and love hippie, I mean the cafe hippie. This is the character that would ask for a dark roast that can match the shade of her own darkness. And she would probably take her coffee to the nearest window seat and gaze out at the drizzling rain. Sadly. I kept her outfit basically to grays and blacks with pops of bright blues, just to kind of represent the same melancholic tendency. On her shirt, I wrote the word quirky because the worst thing for the Type 4 is to be called mainstream. They take heavy pride with being niche. You'll also notice that I put her in a very dramatic pose with her hand on her forehead, crying at the sky. I think we've all wanted to do that. But I have a couple of reasons for this particular pose. The personality is fiercely emotional. Their feelings are more real than reality itself, which is also kind of difficult for them because they will oftentimes feel like they are socially disconnected, or that there is a longing to be, more complete. They feel like there's a higher calling for them, or there's something that they lack. So yeah, even though they are emotional and maybe even prone to self-pitying, they are also highly empathetic. So if you're having a rough day, you can lay it on them because for them this is nothing new. Another reason for the dramatic flair is that they are highly creative. You will notice that I gave her a pencil and paintbrush in one hand. They oftentimes struggle with mundane words, so they will oftentimes funnel their thoughts into their art, which could either be poetry, creative writing, painting, or even though they are typically introverted, theatrical acting. So that is it for the Type 4. On to Type 5, which is the investigator. I don't know if this is correct, but it seems to me, personally, even though they could be wings to each other, this personality is the antithesis to the 4. That's only my personal opinion, but I could be wrong. These people seem a bit cooler when it comes to emotions. Like, if somebody died, they would not be the one to break down. They would be the one to try to figure out what to do for the funeral. Because that's just the way they handle situations with logic. That's not to say that they don't feel emotions, they just aren't likely to express them as openly as other personality types. Granted, I didn't mean to gravitate towards the emotional aspects of the Type 5, because that is not the main focus of the Type 5, but it's just the way the topic flowed. The reason that they are described as the investigator is because they value knowledge. To them, the phrase knowledge is power is very literal because the more they know, the more self-sufficient they are, and they highly value their own autonomy. So for this character, I gave her a dark academia aesthetic, or at least I tended to, hence the reason for the earthy tones and Victorian vibe. You will also see that I gave her a bottle of purple liquid in one hand, and a book of poisons in the other. This is to kind of harken to Sherlock Holmes because he is, well, obviously one of the most well-known detectives in literature. This personality type is highly observant, not to say that the Enneagram is correct in all things, but I will let you know that my sister did take a test and she was typed as a Type 5. And when I tell you, this woman can call a slime bag out with a single glance, I kid you not. It's like she could see the inside of a person, and it's honestly a little spooky. So to kind of tie in the observance of Type 5, I gave her glasses and sharp eyes. I kind of also wanted her to have an angular shape to go throughout the character design, because the Type 5s are quick-witted. But I don't think I quite got that through. Unfortunately, my drawing hand has a tendency to curve, so everything will always look bubbly. But I try my best. So that's it for the Type 5, and now on to Type 6, which is called the Loyalist. So out of all the Enneagram types, this personality inspired me the most, because this personality has 2 prominent variants, which is called phobic and counterphobic. The main difference between these two is the way they handle a threat. For instance, if there was, let's say, a bull coming at the type 6, the phobic will try to get away while the counterphobic will try to headbutt it. Granted, that's a bit extreme, but you get the point. One will run, the other will face their threat. So for this illustration, I want to show that off by creating two characters with a kind of a twin sister concept. My first attempt was not done very well. These characters just looked too different and I wanted a more uniform design. So I redid the sketch, but this time I used the mirror tool to make them resemble each other a lot more. And even though I wanted them to look similar, I still wanted them to have very distinct features. The one on the left I designed as a soldier, while the right is a maid. One has very sharp eyes, while the other is very soft and almost fearful. But to show that they came from the same personality, I gave them the same type of boots. The reason why this person is referred to as a loyalist is because they are a ride or die individual. They will hold on to a belief, a relationship, and maybe even a company for the longest time. Now, that's not to say that they don't have a rebellious streak. This is a trait of being a counterphobic, and it can actually be quite revolutionary. In fact, they can be leaders if they can get past one of their most major hurdles, their fear of instability. That's why they might cling onto something like an authority, because that authority provides safety and stability. But that's not to say the 6 is going to simper. They can be quite hostile if they feel threatened. Apparently, according to a podcast, so take it with a grain of salt, there's a saying about 6s, they can either be at your feet or at your throat. Anyways, that's it for this set of Enneagram types. While recording, I kind of came up with an idea to call these characters. I want to call them Enneagirls now. I don't know, it just sounds so cute. So, I always have fun with creating characters, but I hope you had fun as well. So, yeah, that is it for now. Part 3 will eventually come out. Eventually. How soon? It depends on what captures my interests. Anyways, so that's all I got to say. Have a good day, and farewell.